We're live. Hi. Oh, it's dark. A bit dark in here. Hi. Hello, everyone. Hi, hi, hi. I'm so not prepared for this live stream. Sorry, I've just been rushing around. And breathe. Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, Leslie. I loved your song on Sunday, and so did the whole crowd. That went down a storm. Okay, I wanted to just do a quick live stream, a quick one, I say. I'll try. I have to catch a train anyway, so I do have to keep it a bit shorter than normal. Sorry, I'm a bit rushed off my feet. So let's just have a look in the chat to see who's there. Hello, everyone. Maybe some of you from Glasgow. Days of Boyhood. Hi. And Leslie's there. Hi. Wayward Testra. Okay, thanks for joining me. I just wanted to have a bit of a reflection about Glasgow on Sunday, which was incredible, absolutely incredible event. Oops, pardon. That'll be the salmon fish cake swimming around in my stomach. Okay, so last Sunday in Glasgow on Georgia Square, Kellie-Jay held her Let Women Speak event, and it was an important one because it came hot on the heels of the whole self ID being pushed through in Scotland by Nicola Sturgeon, and of course then the UK government serving the Section 35, and then this whole scandal about the double rapist in a woman's prison blowing up in Nicola Sturgeon's face. And the last time I was in Glasgow was in 2020. I was there twice. Once in June, I think, once in August, for different rallies, and also Edinburgh. So I was really keen to go back to Glasgow and see people there that I'd met before and to support. I was there to support. I wasn't there to. I didn't come with a speech. I wasn't there planning to speak. I thought for this one, no, it was just all about the women. And there were plenty of women, and they had so much to say. I counted 32 women that spoke, excluding Kellie-Jay, and there was still plenty that wanted to speak that didn't get to speak because apparently the police had told Kellie-Jay that she had to start wrapping it up. Leslie Farrington is just saying, Jean from Aberdeen. I'll get to Jean from Aberdeen. So what do I want to say about this event? The other reason I thought it was important to be there is just for men to show their support. So I just have to turn these notifications off. Sleep. Oh, actually, the button is called focus. Focus for 1 hour. I think I can do that. I hope. Okay. There was a counter protest. And it's interesting that whenever these so-called trans people have their events, maybe some of us might go along just to have a watch and to listen, but we don't actually go and protest them. But here they organized the protest purposely to shut women down. The event is called Let Women Speak, and they're showing up to say, no, we won't let them. In fact, they came with a sound system and a cabaret singer who was singing Dancing Queen and Your Disco Needs You, while women are talking about the experience of being a rape or a sexual assault survivor, or having been in prison where they were forced to be in the space and in the showers with men with penises. And over there, they're singing Your Disco Needs You. It is absolutely absurd, I would say obscene. Um, Fortunately, it's a big square, George Square, and the police had cordoned off um, two areas. So the women were separated from the dafties, as Rona Hotchkiss calls them, and there was quite a bit of space in between, which meant that even though they made quite a bit of noise, they didn't drown out the women as much as they tried. And when I got there, I noticed there was a big crowd. And I've been to the ones in Brighton, in Bristol. I went to the Manchester one, and you feel how aggressive the the other side is, or the energy coming from them. How they try to get in your faces, how they try to rip up our signs, which they try to do again in Glasgow. And Um, it's a very unnerving, a very spiky kind of energy. So I'm really glad that they were completely on the other side of the square and there was lots of space in between us. The crowd looked like they had a good sized crowd, but it was nothing compared to the size of the women. And there were quite a few men showing up in support, quite a few gay men as well, which is good to see. The crowd Our crowd, I should say, or rather Kellie-Jay's crowd, um, it was it wasn't just a good size, it was really dense. Everybody was really close together, so if they'd spread out a bit more, it would have been an even bigger, looking crowd. Whereas their crowd, I did go over, with Venezuelan, and I thought, "Oh, how cool is this?" I'm walking down the street with the legend that is Venezuelan, and we're like, "Let's just have a look at the other side." Okay. So we went over to have a look, and um, they were quite spread out. So there really weren't. I'm not very good with estimating crowd sizes, but I think they were at least maybe a third of our size. And walking up there, I felt a bit, like I wanted to say something like lesbians don't have penises, or sex, not gender. Don't be a pretender. Sex is a reality. Gender is a fantasy. But then you just be antagonizing them. But it's more that when I saw them, I just felt sad. And I've had this before when I went to a talk by this so-called, what did she call herself? A non-binary trans femme gay man, which is a lot of words to say. I'm a woman, but I don't want to know about it. And I'm at a talk, and before going to the talk, I was angry, right? And I had all these things worked out in my mind that I was going to say, and then when I saw her, I just felt sad because she was just this tiny, fragile little thing. And similarly, on Sunday, once we got to the other side, they were just very sad looking. Most are very young. Half of them, I think, were very young, teenager, early 20s. Half of them were girls, I think, and then a couple of, people dressed as, well, I would say clowns, and one furry. And it's like a huge, big, towering furry, obviously a bloke. Um, and it just you're just faced with the reality of it, that these are very unhealthy and unhappy looking people, most of them. um and it just kind of breaks your heart a little bit, I find. And at one point, one of them tried to rip up somebody's sign, one of the women's signs, that said something like only men can be trans women, or something, or humans can't change sex, something like that. And this girl then lifted up, was pushed away by the police. Then she lifts up her clothes to reveal her double mastectomy scars, and she's standing there screaming, "I'm happy." Maybe you've seen this, right? Because it's been going around online. How does that say I'm happy? Oh, it just makes me sad. It just makes me really sad now thinking about it. How can you say that that's happy? How does that look like happiness? Sorry. Oh God. Sorry, I don't know what just happened there. It just really hits you sometimes that they're so divorced from reality that they think that that's happiness. Two of those scars across your chest, screaming with this fucked up testosterone woman's voice. Oh, so we walked back, and uh, to be honest, I didn't hear any of the speeches because I kept sort of on the fringes of the crowd. Um, but I watched all the speeches online on on Tuesday, and the full version, the full video is about 2 hours 15 minutes, and I watched all of it. But there is a shorter version available online, which was put together by Alice, the journalist, and I've linked it in the video description here. I really recommend you watch it. God, it's quite a powerful video, the way she's put it together, with beautiful music, and she's kind of picked out the highlights. She was also very close to the speakers, so you really get the close-ups of the faces of these women's faces, and you see the rage and the despair and the anger and the pain in their eyes. I really wasn't planning to get all emotional like this. I'm sorry. um, so I wanted to highlight a couple of them. There were 32, right? But I think these women's voices are so important. And the Glaswegian women have a way of saying it that's, totally theirs. There was one who just went, "Get the fuck," and I thought, there we go. Also, the signs that people had were fantastic. And I noticed, maybe it's just me and I'm reading too much into it, but I thought they're getting more straightforward and to the point. Not that they were vague necessarily, but a bit more blunt, I guess. So there was one, "Your mum's a turf," which I love. Another one that said, "Woman is not a wearable identity." I need to blow my nose. Just give me a second, okay? Oh, wow. Sorry. Okay, this is the most professional live stream I've ever done. Right. What was the other one? "Make the Equality Act clear" was another one. "No males in female jails." Um, "Let women speak. Reality, truth, facts." These are two that I really liked. One big sign saying, "Stop the lies. Trans women are guys." So that's what I mean by straightforward. Just get in there with the truth. And another one, "Only men can be trans women." It's these types of messages that hopefully will wake people up and shift the narrative. Um, and one that just said, "Men are not women." Fantastic. And another one, "Stop pretending. No cocks on women's blocks. A man can't become a woman." Simple. just do you know what I mean? Can you see that? That's not going to work, is it? Nah, never mind. It was just a very clear printed sign, blue letters on white. A man can't become a woman. Simple. Duh. Okie dokie. So then we had the speeches, and it did go on for quite a bit. Let me just go through it because I took some notes. Let me also just have a look in the chat. You guys still here? Mayday is saying women want our stuff back. You know what? There's something that Kellie-Jay said at one of the many events that she's done, where she said, "We're not just holding the line; we're pushing the line back. We're taking back what's ours and what's been taken away." And I think that's fantastic. Um, Taylor Lang says, "My daughter has been miserable since identifying as trans. She still doesn't get it." Taylor, if you go on YouTube and have a look at trigonometry, they've just posted a video where they're talking to a mother who, I think the title is "I transitioned my child, I regret it," or "I'm sorry," or something along those lines. So it's a woman talking about her son thinking that he was a girl for a bit. Um, and how, when he stepped away from that, how much of a relief that was for him. I thought that was a really interesting point because he actually felt he was under a lot of pressure to be a girl or to keep that up. Um, so I watched it this morning. It's got some really good points. Um, Okay. There was a woman from Women's Declaration International, a Scottish woman. She highlighted how this double rapist isn't the only male criminal claiming a female identity who's hurt women. She said there were 63, and she called it 63 reasons why self-ID should be scrapped. There was a woman, Rachel, who was unable to conceive, and she didn't talk about so often, right? When we're having these argy-bargies online, you get these stupid arguments where somebody says, "Well, some women can't conceive, and because of that, men who can't conceive because male, duh, somehow they're the same. Men can become women because some women can't conceive." And I just think it's horrendous the way that is being appropriated. She was talking about the pain of not being able to conceive, being something that only a woman can know about. And it's just like stuff like that that just makes you think, how can others not see this? That all these arguments are ridiculous. And then we had Rachel. Well, that was Rachel, and she also made the point: if they get what they want, they will want more. It's never enough for them. And we had Jean from Aberdeen, the Scottish granny, who, and then this sort of spontaneous chant erupted in the crowd where everybody started chanting, "Jean from Aberdeen, Jean from Aberdeen." And she started singing, "You can't shove your granny off the bus. You can't shove your granny off the bus." But that was really poignant because she was saying, they're trying to shove this granny off the bus. They're trying to shove me off the equality bus. And not just that, they want to throw me under the bus. Oh, I mean, the whole event was so fantastic. If you do get a chance to watch it, please do. The speeches were amazing. Um, then there was a woman who spoke who went to Rape Crisis Scotland in 2021 and was refused service there or help because she doesn't go along with the idea that men can be women. So what you see from these conversations is just how this impacts women's lives. I'm focusing on women in this live stream, obviously, because it was the Let Women Speak event, how it affects women's life on such a practical level and how it makes such an impact. And then we had a trans widow who spoke, and an angry mum who basically said, no, a mum of 3, nobody is born in the wrong body. Stop telling my children that, which was a message to the schools. Then we had Adele, who had a life-size cardboard figure of Katie Valatowski. And that was really striking because when we talk about a trans woman in a woman's prison, using that word obfuscates the reality of it anyway. But she had a cut-out figure of this 6'4" guy. So you could see just how tall he is. And then she'd also marked on that figure the size of his victims, the 12-year-old and the 10-year-old. So that really visually was a fantastic way to get the point across. Um, there was a woman who spoke about needing to have a vaginal examination and who asked for a female chaperone, and she was told, "You can't say that here anymore." And then somebody was talking about female sports. There was a call to repeal the GRA. This woman said it is not fit for purpose and it has to be scrapped. And then we had Ellie, the detransitioner, who came up to me earlier. I didn't know she was a detransitioner or that she was going to speak. She just came up and went, "Hey, Mr. Mano, so nice to see you." So we just had a chat. We took a picture, I think. But then when she spoke, man, oh, um, she said she was part of the trans community from the age of 12 to 19, and then they just basically vomited her out when she no longer thought she was trans. And she said, "I was so sure until suddenly I was not." Okay. And then there was a woman who read out somebody else's words, somebody called Vanessa. And this was a fantastic, she said, "Don't like the sound of female rage? Find a fucking safe space of your own." And while all this is happening, on the other side, they're singing songs from a musical or from Kylie or from ABBA. Like, have these, and saying that what is being said is hate speech. And it's like, do these people know anything? They don't, because obviously they're not listening. Uh, okay, then there was a woman in a pink coat, Lisa, who spent some time in the women's prison because of contempt. Apparently, she'd spoken in the wrong way to the police, so they put her in remand in Cornton Vale, where she was with a couple of blokes. She described one of them as having hands like shovels and feet like coffins. And she said it's called gender ideology because it's just a fucking idea. And then we had Anna from Russia. I've seen her speak before. A disabled woman talking about the need for female-only intimate care. She was from the States, and that was a very emotional one as well. And then we had Amanda, who spent time in prison and was describing what it's like there, and that now people are saying, "Oh, why should we listen to you?" And she's like, "Because I was a woman in prison. That's why." Right, I won't go through all of them because there were so many. And we had Sally, the lesbian. She's an older woman, and we spoke later on in the pub. We had a good chat, and it's so nice to connect with lesbians that way. I find we had a really nice chat, and she was talking about how during Section 28 she could, with her friends, hire a room in a pub and have a lesbian-only event. Today they can't. She's part of a walking group as well, where she tried to get some funding, and they keep saying no because they're not inclusive. So she was saying, as lesbians, our whole existence is being legislated away. The madness of it all. And then somebody spoke for Henrietta Freeman. You may know her from Twitter. Henrietta is a disabled quadriplegic with cognitive difficulties who needs intimate care 24/7. And that just really brings home the point that women absolutely need to have the right to female-only care, and that female doesn't mean a man with magical lady feels. Okay, and then somebody else talked about neurodiversity. Actually, Days of Boyhood mentioned something at the start, saying that only, I think, 2% of people are on the autism spectrum, yet there's so much overrepresented at the gender clinics. Why? Sorry, the older lesbian that I mentioned, actually is called Max. That wasn't Sally. Sally was another one. So it was very powerful. And then we all went to the pub, and it was a huge pub called the Crystal Palace, and it's a beautiful building. Apparently, it was one of the first buildings made out of a metal frame with a metal framework, huge windows. Uh, there was a ground floor and a first floor, and we were all up on the first floor, and it was oh, it was just full of turfs, basically turfs everywhere. Adult human female t-shirts everywhere. Oh, it was fantastic. It was so good. The energy was so uplifting. And there was a really beautiful moment where towards the end, um, they started singing Auld Lang Syne, but the women's rights version of it that was first sung, I think, outside Holyrood as a protest, and that was such a beautiful, powerful, gorgeous, gorgeous moment. The whole day was amazing. Um, Now, when I was there, as I said, I was mostly sort of on the fringes of the crowd. And at one point, this young guy shows up with a cardboard sign with a trans flag on it and names around it. And he stood right behind where the speakers were. And I just thought, oh, fuck off. You know, you've got your own space. Like that's what that's cordoned off for. But no, you come here on purpose to, I don't know, to provoke. Somebody says, "Is it Lel? It was lovely to meet you, Menno." Well, I can't see from the little thumbnail thing who you are, but it was lovely to meet you too. Oh God, there was one woman. She grabbed me just out of nowhere. There was a hand, and she went in the flash, and I'm just like, "Ugh," and she's like, "Mr. Menno, in the flash." So that was funny. She spoke as well. Anyways, I do love the Scottish accent so much. Okay, so this guy showed up. He stood there with his sign, and on the one hand, I wanted to tell him to piss off, but on the other hand, I thought, be reasonable, be friendly. Well, you know, as if it wouldn't have been unreasonable to tell him to go, but I just thought, let's have a conversation. Let's see where he's coming from. Um, and I think he could have been a teenager, could have been in his late teens or early 20s. He just stood there. So I asked him, what are those names around the flag? And he goes, oh, those are people who couldn't be here today. So this is a way of them being present. And I thought, okay, well, that's sweet in a way. And then we started having a little chat. And then then women started getting involved. And yeah, it was just quite like a civil little conversation. Andrea just says, "Hi, Mr. Minnow. I am so proud of y'all who were at Glasgow. You know what? I'm so glad I went. It was absolutely fantastic. It was gorgeous. And so many women that were there for the first time, so many women that had never spoken before. These events give women such a tonic of hope, if you like. And also, it's very anchoring because um, it makes you realize you're not the crazy one at all. So started chatting with this guy, and he kept saying about, oh, but identity this and identity that, and I'm like, but there is more to a person than their sense of self. I mean, duh. You can think all sorts of things about yourself that may be completely wrong, you know, for good or for worse, because you may have, and that's why you need friends and family, right? Because they can sort of support you. So if you think that you're a piece of shit and you're good for nothing, your friends and family can say, well, actually, you've got these skills, you've got these qualities, and we love you and you're wonderful. But similarly, you may have ideas that are completely divorced from reality, and they can go, actually, you know, it's so strange to think that whatever you think about yourself is somehow your true self. It's ridiculous, and it's arrogant, and it's narcissistic. So, but he kept coming back to that point. So then I kept making my point about that. Um, Anyways, I kept being pulled away by other people. Um, like in the flesh woman. So I kept sort of coming in and out of that conversation, but then he was talking to others. And anyway, so towards the end, I sort of asked him, "What was your takeaway from these conversations you've just had?" And then he said, "Well, that most of you are actually quite civil." And I'm like, "Ah, what were you expecting? That we're going to bite your head off? That's what the others. That's what your side does." Anyways, so then off to the pub, and then oh, it was just an exhilarating day, to be honest. And watching these speeches afterwards are just fantastic. So the next one will be Dublin and Belfast in April. I think is the 15th and 16th of April. I don't know whether I'll be able to make that. Obviously, there's a fair bit of travel involved. Um, but I'm hoping that these, hello, Melanie, uh, troublemaker. I'm hoping that these events will get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And one thing is for sure, women won't wish. Um, and these it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. This is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And Nicola Sturgeon just looks like an absolute fool at the moment. Then you get Rishi Sunak coming out on that Piers Morgan interview, simply saying, when he was asked, "What is a woman?" "Ugh, an adult human female." Mm. So if you can't give that as an answer now, I'm wondering if it's just going to become a matter of political suicide if you can't answer that question with a straightforward, normal answer, that you're just going to look like an absolute idiot, just like Nicola does now. Now, apparently, Wales is now coming up with their own self ID plans, which is kind of stupid because if the UK government serves Scotland with a Section 35, they can also do that with Wales. But I don't know too much about this, but apparently Wales and Scotland basically do everything that Westminster want to always go against the grain of what Westminster does. Um, um, and Wales usually follows Scotland. And it's so interesting when you think about the sizes of these countries. Like the population of Wales is the same as the population of Amsterdam. And Amsterdam's not even like one of the biggest cities in Europe, obviously. The Netherlands is a very small country, but we have about 80 million people, but Scotland has about 5.2 million. And it's like, like, why are you focusing on such a tiny niche little group and everyone else has to hand in their rights for that? Alex Salmond, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, he did a speech the other day, I think yesterday, where he basically said, if you go up to the majority of the population and say you can no longer have your single sex spaces, then duh, of course people are going to go, what? Sharon C says, as a grandma of two young girls, I thank you, Menna, for this. Well, you're very welcome. We're going to keep talking about this until this madness ends. And Kathy Harris says, please do try to come to Ireland. You know what? I've not been to Ireland since 2008, I think. I'll have a look. I'm not promising anything, but I'll have a look at the plans and see what I can do. Okie doke. You know what? It's been half an hour. So I'm just going to leave it there. As somebody else said in the chat, this is a water, Glasgow was a watershed moment. I hope so. The good thing is that now, obviously, the gender shit is truly hitting the fan, and the shit's going everywhere. So, and now we see that there was that other story that broke about the transgender butcher. God, it sounds like a horror film. But we don't know if he was guilty of kidnapping that girl or what happened. So I'll have to wait for the details. But at least he was reported as a man in one article, and then they got criticized for that. Somebody's asking the unimpressed cat, who is suitably unimpressed, I guess, with me, asking when's part 2. So that relates to my video series, What I Got Wrong About Trans. Part 2, basically, I'll aim to get that out in March. Sorry about the wait. I'll have to do part 2 and part 3 together because I'll have to get the rabbit costume out again. So I'll do that in March. I'm going away. This is why I have to catch a train this afternoon to a thing for the Gay Men's Network. We're going to have a few days of trashing things out. So next week, I then have to work on self ID in the Netherlands. The plans for that are even more bonkers than what they're trying to do in Scotland. Absolutely crazy. Um, so I'm making a video about that in Dutch. I'm still doing research about that. So that's next, and then part 2 and part 3 in March. Sorry about the wait. Oh, Taylor Lane, thank you so much for your £8.99. You say, please do a piss take video to Defying Gravity, called it Defying Reality. Brilliant. Okay, good suggestion, although I would never be able to sing that song, but maybe I can get somebody else to do it. Okay, Days of Boyhood. Are you a furry, Menno? No. Okay. Define reality. Okay, that's a great idea. Oh, there's so much to do. There is so much to do. I've got at least 15 videos I need to make. Gavin Barry says, hello, Mr. Menno. Lovely to see you in Glasgow. Good to see you too. It was absolutely amazing. So I need to pack my bag and catch the train. So thank you so much. And thank you, Taylor Lane, again, for your £8.99. I might put that towards travel to Ireland if I make it there. Okay, so that was that. Just a quick catch up. I'll do another live stream next week about self ID in the Netherlands. So I shall see you then. Have a good evening, everyone. And until we win, remember to keep it real and keep smiling. Ciao.